Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Eliza and I'm a disabled content creator, and today we're going to be talking about my wedding as a wheelchair user. So if you're new here, a little bit about me is that I'm a wheelchair user. Of course, everything I own is very, very colourful, and I got married in September 2023, which is a month ago at the time of filming. I got married to my partner, who I've been with for over 10 years in West Sussex, and I wore an amazing colourful wedding dress, which I will show you very shortly. But before we dive in, I want to show you an amazing product that I've been using. Before I show you my amazing wedding dress, I want to talk to you about today's sponsor, which is Lelo. But more importantly, I'm going to be talking about the Enigma Wave. This is what the toy looks like. It's absolutely stunning and so beautiful. It offers internal and external stimulation. The insertable tail vibrates and moves, mimicking a finger-like motion, while the sonic waves and gentle pulses stimulate your entire clitoral area. There are 3 motors for triple pleasure, and trust me, it feels amazing. It also uses the wave motion technology. The Enigma Wave moves like a subtle wave, fusing satisfying inner stimulation with teasingly fun, deep sensations. You can enjoy the powerful sonic wave and clitoral stimulation for an all-encompassing G-spot massage if you go to the link in the bio and check out Lelo and the Enigma Wave to discover more. So planning a wedding as a disabled person is quite interesting because there isn't really anything online, any of like the lists that they offer you online that include disability or talk about having a disabled person getting married, because often when I would ring up or ask suppliers and things like that, they would assume that it was a disabled guest that I was talking about rather than a disabled person being the person to actually be getting married. So because of that, I didn't find it that easy to actually find wedding things that were catered to me, if that makes sense. But I'm quite an organised person, so I did actually really enjoy the overall wedding planning, because some things for me personally I didn't have to worry about, so like flowers, things like that I didn't have to worry about, but there were other parts of the access that I did need to really worry about, like wheelchair access, dietary requirements, things like that, space in the venue to move around, if they offered good alcohol-free options, all of these various different examples. So it definitely was quite difficult because when I was using the different apps to like follow a long list of all the things that I had to do, it didn't include disability at all or even have it as an option, which meant that I was kind of planning on my own. It felt like I hadn't seen very many other people talk about disability and getting married. Nobody really had any obvious blogs and things like that. If you do know any, please let me know down below because I'd definitely be interested. So I was kind of just going in completely new, being like, let's work this out as we go along. But as I say, I am quite an organised person and I actually did really enjoy the organisation of our wedding. I feel like it was kind of me being in my element. I had lists, I had spreadsheets, and I just really liked it, which I think is a really annoying thing to say because lots of people talk about how stressful it is when you get married. Personally, I didn't actually find it that stressful. I found it quite enjoyable, but that is just me and everybody is different. So for many wheelchair users, finding a wedding venue isn't very easy, and that was definitely the same for me because so many venues just do not list their access at all. It's really hard to actually find a wheelchair accessible venue. When you're looking online, you can't even see what is or isn't wheelchair accessible. Often I would have to ring up and ask them and ask for their access, and then I'd be believing what people say on the phone because so often when you ring people and you ask, is it accessible? They will say, yes, it's accessible, but when you actually get there, it's not, which did happen to me quite a few times. One of the venues that I showed up to said, yes, it's fully accessible. And then I got there and there were stairs to get in and they were like, we can ramp this, we can ramp that, we can ramp this, but you can't get ready in this section and you can't stay in the accommodation, which is not what I wanted for my wedding day. So I ended up having to ring around loads and loads of different venues, and eventually I did find one that would work, that was step 3 throughout, although it did still have some gravel, which wasn't great, but it was better than what a lot of the places offered because I wanted to get married outside. I wanted it to be like a countryside wedding, to be in a barn, something like that, rather than in a city. And some cities did seem to offer more kind of wheelchair accessible venues, but it wasn't quite the style of the venue that I was looking for. And eventually I did find one. This is what it looked like. It was Brookfield Barn and I absolutely loved it. It was step 3 throughout and just looked exactly how I wanted it to. So what was the process of finding my wedding outfit, which is something that lots of people have asked, because I think like with the finding of the venue and stuff like that, it was just a lot of admin, a lot of ringing up, being like, what we're going to do, because we had so many access needs that we needed to meet. We had people that were wheelchair users, we had people that had very severe allergies, we had people who were autistic, all sorts of things. And because of that, we had to kind of really think about our access and really put things in place for that. So for example, we went for a venue that offered really good allergen things so that they really knew exactly what they were doing and things like that. But the process of finding my dress, because I'm a wheelchair user, I talk a lot about how dresses need to be practical when you're in a chair. But for my wedding day, I decided that I was just going to ignore all the advice that I've ever given myself and just get something absolutely ridiculous, because I knew that I wanted a really big princessy dress, and that was what I wanted, and that was what I got. And I'm very boring and I'm quite decisive, and so I didn't actually go wedding dress shopping at all. I know, shock horror. I actually just bought my dress online, and I got it from Selkie. I think it was around 400-ish, £450, which is expensive, but for a wedding dress in like wedding dress land is fairly affordable. And I think I originally saw it on Instagram and was like, I've been looking for that dress. It's a rainbow dress. It's really princessy. It's exactly what I want, because they had originally done a shorter version, which I also really liked, but it wasn't quite long enough for my wedding dress. I wanted a big dress, and I saw it and was like, I think that's the one. That's my wedding dress. So I was like, let's buy it, and I bought it, and it came to my house, and I tried it on at home on my own and was like, this is it. This is my wedding dress, and that was what I stuck with. And then I basically went on to find different accessories. I had a really long rainbow veil. I found that on Etsy, and I just saw that as well and was like, that's the one, I'm gonna get it, I love it, it's beautiful, let's go for it. And then I had shoes, which I actually originally had some irregular choice shoes, which are really beautiful, but I couldn't walk in them, so I actually ended up just going for some green trainers, which were really beautiful and loved them, but quite casual, but that's fine. It was kind of just what I wanted to go for. And my favourite animals are sharks, in case you didn't guess. And I had a shark necklace and shark earrings, which were pink and matched our wedding colours. And we didn't actually hide our outfits beforehand, so my partner saw my outfit beforehand and on the big day, because I didn't want the stress of them not seeing it or not knowing what was going on or anything like that. So I just showed them as soon as they came home the day that I bought it, and as I bought different accessories and things like that, and that was how we did it, so that we didn't have to worry or be stressing about whatever. And my partner wore a grey charcoal suit with a pink and yellow waistcoats, which were our two kind of wedding colours, and then that was a way to like bring it together, I guess. That was my outfit. That was how I went about choosing my outfit. It was also really, really hard to find wheelchair accessible like bridal boutiques as well, and that was a whole other thing. The amount of times that I would ring up and be like, are you wheelchair accessible? And they'd say no, or they say yes but there's no toilet, or yes but you can't get on like the thing to try it on, like the podium to try it on. And I just didn't really want that. I didn't want the stress of it, so I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to get it online and be done with it and not have to worry about it. But everyone's different, and definitely we need to see more wheelchair accessible wedding things in place, because there is not enough. And that brings us to the big day. So we got married on the 17th of September 2023, and we arrived at the venue at 9 a.m. and I was very stressed. The only thing that I was stressed about was the weather, because I couldn't control it. I couldn't know what was going to happen. I was just worried about what it was going to look like, what was going to happen, and it actually did end up raining on our wedding day, which was a bit stressful, but it was fine. We made it work. We just went with it. We didn't want to worry about it, and yeah, it ended up being fun. So on the big day, we actually got legally married in the morning. So we had our legal service at 11 o'clock, and that was just with very close immediate family and the registrar, and it was very quick. And I wore this silver dress, and if you'll notice, I've got hot pink little highlights, and that was because all of my wedding party also wore hot pink, and on my partner's side they wore yellow, and so it was kind of like two of mine and my partner's favourite colours coming together, and they also worked really well together, which was great. So we got legally married at 11, and then I continued to get ready after that, because that wasn't the dress I was going to be wearing. I had a very silly dress for my main event, because I couldn't really push myself in my wheelchair. I just had to have like people piling the dress on top of me and then helping me push me, and me holding the dress, or me like pushing while they were holding the dress on top, and it was just all a lot. And then basically at 1 o'clock I got married with a celebrant led service, and a celebrant is basically somebody that can't legally marry you, at least where I am based, but they kind of run the service, and lots of the time they kind of run it as if it is a real service, if that makes sense. And my celebrant was actually my dad. So my dad walked me down the aisle and then he ran our wedding service, which was really beautiful. I loved it. It was just really personal to us, and we had so many little details as well. So things like our flowers were actually grown on my mum's allotment. Our wedding favours were created by my partner, and like we had lots of illustrations involved because they're an illustrator, and we had a illustration photo booth, so you could go in and have like a really quick portrait made of you that then you could take home, things like that. And those little bits just kind of brought our families together, and it was just a way for us to make the venue and the wedding feel really, really personal. We did have some decorations that we kind of like bought in that were put up by a company that you had to use that kind of came with the venue, but we had lots of other things that we used to try and make it as us as possible and as beautiful as possible. And I really love the fact that my mum grew all of the flowers on her allotment. She spent a really long time growing them, and they just looked really amazing on the day, and that just felt really personal and really special to us. And also one of our family members has like a very old vintage car. It's one of those things that's been in the family for years, and like they've kept it going, and that was our wedding car, so that was really nice. And that was just a way for like, I guess, our families to do a joint thing together and yeah, bring together and create the day together. And it was just really beautiful. And my absolute favourite bit was my first dance, because one of my favourite celebrities is Harry Styles. And if you're a Harry Styles fan, or if you've just seen his music video of Treat People with Kindness, he does a dance in that. And me and my partner did an adapted version of the Treat People with Kindness dance. And it was really interesting actually navigating our first dance and what that was going to look like as a wheelchair user, because we don't really dance. I don't really dance that much. I find dancing quite difficult for me. It just makes me quite tired. So we did an adapted version of the Treat People with Kindness dance. And I also got changed in the evening into like an evening dress, because although my big beautiful rainbow pastel dress was stunning, it was just not very practical at all, and it basically meant that I wouldn't have been able to move. So I got changed into a kind of shorter black rainbow dress, and we did our first dance. And then we had a DJ saxophonist who basically played music, and we all partied the night away, and it was just, yeah, really beautiful, and I loved every second. So finally, did we enjoy the day? And I think that's one of the questions that people talk a lot, because there's a lot of pressure on weddings to be a certain way, feel a certain way, look a certain way. And I think you should just do your wedding if you want to get married, however you want to do it, and whatever way works for you, however you want it to look. Don't feel pressured into other people of doing it a certain way, which is very easy said, but not actually easily done. It is difficult, but it's your wedding, it's your day. It should be however you want it to be. And I feel like there's a lot of pressure for a wedding to be like the best day of your life, and it's got to be perfect, blah, blah, blah. And I decided not to fall into that. I just said, it's going to be a day, it's going to be enjoyable, it's just going to be what it is. And that's all we can kind of hope and cope with. And annoyingly, in terms of, I feel like I'm being a big cliche here, I loved every second of it. Actually, the day, it was just really joyful. Everyone was just there to be helpful. Everyone was just being so lovely, and it just felt really nice. And there were no issues, no arguments, no real stresses. And I just loved every second of it. I just felt so joyful the whole time. And it was just great. I loved it. I don't really know what else to say apart from that. There were things that went wrong, but I think on the day I was just like, whatever it is, what it is, we're just gonna go with it. And I just loved it. I loved it. I loved being married. I loved getting married. I loved being with my friends and family. It was so fun. And one of the questions that my followers asked were, what would I change? Would I change anything? And I don't think I would, which is really annoying, because it is what it is now, and it was just so beautiful. I just loved it. It was just so enjoyable. Was it the best day of my life? Maybe, but it also is okay if it isn't the best day of your life. Like, your wedding doesn't have to be this magical moment, but we just loved every second of it, and I'm really glad that we did it, and it was definitely the right decision for us. So that's everything that I have for you today. What did you think of our wedding? What did you think of my dress? What were you doing for your wedding? Are you getting married? Do you want to get married? Let me know in the comments. And of course, don't forget to check out Lelo as well. The link is in the bio so that you too can experience the amazing Enigma wave. Please do follow me across my other socials. It's just @disabled_Eliza, and thank you so much for being here. Make sure to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great one. Bye.